Anybody who has successfully lost weight and kept it off will agree that a higher protein intake is an essential part of such eating habits. In this audiocast, I'm going to be going over a few points as to why that is. And additionally, I'm going to teach you how to optimally pick those protein sources and, more importantly, how to individualize them to your preferences and your preferred tastes. Welcome to my channel's Audiocast, where with just a few minutes of your time, I will empower you to take charge of your body transformation journey through simple behavior adjustments. My name is Daniel, and I believe that successful and long-lasting body transformations don't require extreme measures. It's all about small, consistent habits that can lead to powerful results. Okay, so let's start with the thermic effect of food. Of the three macronutrients, fats, proteins, and carbs, protein has the highest thermic effect. Thermic effect of food measures how many calories you burn during the digestion of that specific food. Protein has the highest of the three with a whopping 20 to 30%. So to give you an example, that would mean that if you eat a 300 calorie steak, let's say 5 to 6 ounces, your body would only store about 240 to 260 of those calories because your body is burning 40 or 60 of those calories during digestion. Pretty cool. Protein is also highly satiating. Protein is going to help you stay full for longer periods of time, more than most carbs or fats. So if you pair up protein with some vegetables, you're going to have a winning combination of a larger food volume, lower calories, and more satisfaction. Now let's look at muscle building. Muscle is the most significant contributor of your BMR. So your BMR, your basal metabolic rate, is simplified the number of calories you burn naturally. Let's just put it that way. And the more muscle you have, the more food your body requires to maintain that weight. You can look at this fact from two views. First, it makes weight gain or gaining fat a little bit harder. And second, it makes weight loss or fat loss more accessible while feeling less restrictive when cutting calories. A higher protein intake paired up with resistance training is going to help you build muscle. Now, of course, lifting weights at the gym isn't the only option, as there are many alternatives, but just remember that a higher BMR equals more flexibility with cheat meals and the foods that you enjoy. So if you can build just 2 or 3 more pounds of muscle, that just is going to give you more flexibility for eating a little bit more of the foods that you like without actually gaining fat, because it's very likely that because your BMR is now increased because of the muscle gain, you're going to burn those calories a lot faster, or those cheat calories, if you want to call them cheat calories, are going to go straight to your muscle. Now, whether you're in a caloric deficit or just maintaining, 40 to 50% of your calories should be coming from protein. Now, unless you're doing keto, of course. This is more true, especially if you're in the phase where you're trying to lose weight. And I would even say that if you're in that weight loss phase, your protein intake should be anywhere upwards to 60% of your total caloric intake. A good reference is to aim for 1 gram of protein for every pound of body weight. So that would be about 2 grams per kilo. You can calculate the protein content of a food by reading the nutrition label. Now, if you're not sure or there is no nutrition label, you can always, of course, do a quick Google search. Now, one of the things that confuses many people is knowing how to pick the right protein sources, or not knowing whether they should prioritize which types of protein sources should they get, the fatty protein sources or the lean protein sources. Again, let's look at context. If you're doing a low carb or ketogenic approach, pick the fattier meats, of course. Now, this is not going to be applicable to everyone because everyone is doing a different approach, but I do recommend the ketogenic diet for specific people, and this is something that I discuss in my book, once and for all how to lose weight and never fail again. Wink, wink, shameless advertisement right now. I'll leave the link in the description below, but this is something that I discuss that to make it easy to some people that are getting started, especially that don't know how to get started. I do recommend either a ketogenic or a very high protein approach because it's just easier to omit a specific macronutrient, in this case is carbs. And then as you progress and as you get better, then you can slowly start introducing carbs. But nevertheless, as you start to move to more of like starting to add carbs back to your diet, then you should be opting for leaner protein sources. Now, there's nothing wrong with the fattier cuts of protein, but you do have to keep in mind that they're going to be more calorically dense. So again, if you're doing more of that medium to high carb approach, where you're, doing fruits, tubers, legumes, grains, which you should for a more optimal, healthier diet and lifestyle, then choose the leaner cuts. So that would look like picking the 90-10 ground beef or the 93-7 lean ground beef. That would mean picking chicken breast over thighs and drums, pork tenderloins, more egg whites than yolks. And there's, again, nothing wrong with the yolk because it is a very nutrient-dense protein. However, if you do too many yolks, that's going to add up in calories. There's nothing wrong with the yolk, but adding more egg whites, because egg whites are going to give you more volume for less calories. Now, regardless of your dietary approach, feel free to always add 2 to 3 ounces of protein with veggies if you're still feeling hungry after a meal. Regardless of whatever approach you follow, even if it's something you don't agree with in this audiocast, a higher protein intake should always be included. Now, let's break it down a little bit more. Let's start with poultry. I think that the two best poultry sources are going to be chicken and turkey. And some of those leaner cuts are going to include breast, tenderloins, deli cuts, especially the low sodium ones, and anything that's like ground turkey or ground chicken, especially if it's like 90-10 and above. So if by the way, if you're listening to this audiocast and I'm saying numbers like 93-7, 96-10, 90-10, 85-15, that is a number that you're going to see in the front label of a protein. Like, so whenever you go and pick out your meat and you see at the front of the chicken or in front of the ground turkey, and there's going to be a number, and it's going to say like 85-15, 90-10, 93-7. So what that means, it means 85% lean, 15% fat. And ideally, you always want to get something that is 90 and above. So 90-10 and above. Because I think that if you do anything lower than that, that's when you kind of start playing with like more calorically dense protein source. And if you do like a 99-1, which there is like 99-1 ground turkey, I don't recommend it. It tastes like cardboard. It's just too lean. And I think like those are the type of proteins that like people that are preparing for shows are eating. But like if you're just like a average person just trying to lose weight, be healthy, I think 90-10 is probably the best one that you could do because it still has a nice balance of flavor while still being lean. So the way that you distinguish it from like fattier cuts is anything with skin. So anytime that you see like the white stuff, like thighs, wings, or drumsticks, and even then, there's nothing wrong with those types of cuts of the chicken. I think the problem is like when we deep fry them in oil too, and we add a bunch of extra calories. So even things like thighs, wings, and drumsticks are okay as long as you're not deep frying them in oil. And if you're like air frying them or if you're grilling them, beautiful, do that, but don't add additional oil. Now, these are the two more common poultry sources you're going to find at the grocery store, but any other ones like duck or goose, I mean, it just depends on where you're from, obviously, are going to work great too. Eggs. Since eggs come from poultry, we're going to include them here. With eggs, you can eat 2 to 3 whole eggs a day. Yes, eggs are good for you. The yolk part is good for you. However, depending on your cholesterol levels, depending on like what health goals you have, you do want to limit them, of course, but there's nothing wrong with the egg yolk. I would say like 2 to 3 eggs a day is a good baseline for anyone. But if you're doing an omelet and you're trying to lose weight and you feel that you're not satisfied, Add more volume by adding more egg whites. Egg whites are just one of the purest, leanest sources of protein. And if you add I know eggs right now, especially, they're super expensive, right? But if we ever come to a point where eggs are not going to be the same price of a haircut, then, feel free to buy those egg white cartons and add a cup of egg whites to your omelet. Or even at night, if you're feeling like you're craving, make an egg white omelet with some vegetables and some low-fat cheese. I would say you can add up to a cup, like I said, a cup, or even 4 or 5 of them. And again, don't be afraid of the yolk part, but prioritize the egg whites more when doing that higher carb approach. Seafood. So some of the fattier fish includes salmon, sardines, mackerel, and herring. The leaner fish includes halibut, cod, shrimp, bass, tuna, pollock, and mahi-mahi. I would still say to consume fatty fish maybe twice a week, especially wild-caught salmon, because it's got some of those natural omegas that you need, which are very good for your brain health and for many other things. But same principle applies here. Don't drench it in butter. Add a little bit of butter for flavor, of course, and use a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. But if you're going for satiety, if you're going for that satisfaction, things like tuna and water, halibut, mahi-mahi, which are shrimp, especially shrimp, they're super lean sources. Any white fish is very lean. So I would challenge you to, next time that you can, eat 8 ounces of shrimp with 4 cups of vegetables, and tell me how full you feel after that. And that right there, that meal, 8 ounces of shrimp with some 3 cups of vegetables with some lime juice, some cilantro, some spices, is gonna be no more than 350 calories. It's ridiculous. So white fish is good for long-term, or for that satiety, for feeling full and feeling satisfied while adding the extra protein that your body needs. Now, do try to keep away from canned fish and predatory fish like shark, swordfish. Depends on where you're from, obviously, but things like eel, king crab, king mackerel. Just try to stay away from those types of fish, because they have more. They're not as healthy for you. They do come with some poisoning warnings and stuff like that. So now, moving on to red meats. Some of those leaner cuts include sirloin, skirt steak, bottom round, stew meat, lean stew meat. There is lean stew meat out there, chuck roast, and like I said earlier, 90-10 ground beef. Your sources can be either cow, elk, or bison. If your wallet allows you, buy grass-fed meats, as these are more optimal choices. Some of the fattier cuts include prime rib, Angus, ribeye, New York strip, biscuit, all the good ones, right? That's what adds a lot of flavor to them. And the thing here is I would never say, don't ever eat prime rib or brisket or things like that are delicious, but save those for special occasions, of course. That would be your cheat meal. There's nothing wrong with that. And I would even say that if you go out and eat, you go to a steakhouse and you're feeling hungry, instead of asking for more potatoes, ask for more brisket, ask for more prime rib. Or even if you're feeling up for it, I would say instead of getting a 6-ounce steak, get a 12-ounce steak, but don't get the potatoes. Get a 12-ounce steak with vegetables, even if it's the fattier cut. Other proteins to consider that I didn't mention include lean turkey bacon, pork chops and pork chops and loins, ham, and in moderation, because it is very high sodium, and dairy sources. Dairy sources are a great way to get your protein intake. They're also going to provide you with most of your calcium and vitamin D needs. However, dairy sources can be calorically dense. So once again, let's talk about context. If you're doing a higher carb approach, or if you're doing a higher carb meal, then aim for those lighter choices like light sour cream, fat-free cottage cheese. Great source of protein, by the way, reduced fat, shredded cheese. One of my favorite snacks is light string cheese or skim milk string cheese. among others. Like if you look for those, like string cheese is like the light calorie options is like 50 calories for like one, and they're very filling. If you're doing keto or low carb, then you can do the regular stuff. But even then, context, like if you do a little bit of regular cheese on your meal, it's okay. It's all about me. It's also about being mindful, as you can't just add a bunch of creams and cheeses to your steak and say, well, I'm doing it for the high protein intake because it's going to help me satiate. You got to be mindful and look at the calories. And so that's why I'm a big fan of those lighter choices. And I know that's kind of a controversial thing for people, where I recommend we'll do a little bit of light sour cream and light or low fat shredded cheese. If you look at my recipes on my channel, like the YouTube shorts that I do, I use a lot of those items. And at the end of the day, like the caloric intake is way lower while getting a little bit of extra protein in. So try those options as well. Protein shakes aren't just created for bodybuilders and athletes. They can be a convenient and tasty ally for appetite control. They can also help you with your daily protein intake. One scoop of any type of protein is going to be between 25 to 35 grams of protein, with only just averaging about 150 calories. This can very easily substitute a 4-ounce serving of lean protein. Go to your nearest supplement store and look for different flavors. I think that's what's cool about protein powders, is that there's, like right now, I have a Fruity Pebbles flavor protein, which I use to make like one of my desserts right now. To give you an example, one of my desserts, I should probably make a short on this, but like one of my desserts is like a little, it's almost like a little smoothie where I get some ice, skim milk, dairy. I get a scoop of that Fruity Pebbles flavored protein powder. I add some oats, a banana, and it all comes down to like the ice, of course. And then I put it into my Ninja Bullet, and I add extra ice, and then it has like a very thick, flavory, like Fruity Pebble smoothie consistency. It's really good. And I have seen it all, from chocolate to like pineapple flavored protein powders. There's all kinds of like flavors out there that you can try. And the good thing is that if you're lactose intolerant or you can't handle a lot of dairy, there's a lot of proteins that will cater to that. So one protein shake a day can really help keep the cravings away. Finally, vegan sources. Now, if you're vegan, I haven't forgotten about you. Most foods that are promoted as high protein for vegans are also high in carbs. Like, for example, beans and rice, which are incomplete proteins that when you bring together, they're complete proteins. But that's, another topic for another day. Legumes, well, beans are a legume, but like lentils, another type of legume, are high in protein, but again, more carbs. This can be tricky for someone who's a beginner, because you're going to eat a lot. If you're hearing my advice of eat a lot of protein and then you are a vegan, then you're going to eat a lot of foods that are going to get your calorie intake up, because they're carbs with high protein intake. So again, the issue is that you're stacking calories, which can be counterproductive. To get a high protein and low calorie meal from a vegan source, you do kind of have to look for alternatives. The best natural vegan sources include hemp seeds, lentils, and chickpeas. The best alternative vegan sources include firm tofu, TVP, seitan, tempeh, and pea protein powders. You can find other variations like chipotle tempeh and tofurkey, which I encourage you to try all these alternatives. And even if you're not vegan, like for me, for example, I like to occasionally go to Sprouts and get some tofurkey or chipotle tempeh, which it's absolutely delicious. The thing is, because of the soy, if you eat a lot of it, it could upset your stomach. So do be mindful of that. But there's a lot of alternatives. They're also a great way to break monotony, and another tool you can have under your belt for a variety of different tastes. So again, just to summarize everything, just for the long term. And even if you want to see, quick results, and I'm doing the air quotes right now, if you want to see quick results, what I always tell my clients is, in order to see quick almost instant results, you have to think long term first, because a lot of people get stuck in this I want results quickly, so they focus on the now and they don't focus on the long term view, right? They don't focus on, like, yes, you want to get this done, but it's also you got to think about how you're going to maintain it. So if you think from that end first, like if you think backwards, if you like reverse engineering, you think, how can I maintain and then how can I lose it fast, you're going to see results a lot faster. And part of that is getting used to and making a high protein approach your priority. To supplement that, the topic of this audiocast is high protein, but you should think protein and vegetables second. And that's a killer combination right there for the long term, like a lot of protein, a lot of vegetables. So hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, make sure that you subscribe to the channel. I do like to do these audiocasts occasionally. I do like to answer questions from my viewers as well. And please check out my YouTube shorts too. I do provide a lot of recipes where I, like, pretty much everything that I'm talking about here, like, you're going to see it manifested in my videos. And it's not just me giving you advice. Like, you will see how I implement all of this in my YouTube shorts and any other recipes that I make. So that is all I have for you today. I will talk to you in the next audiocast.